Good evening, Steeler fans, and welcome to another Wednesday night here on the Steel Curtain Network. I'm your host, Geoffrey Benedict. Here, Shannon White is with me. We are the Curtain Call. I almost didn't tell you the name of our podcast. We are the Curtain Call podcast here every Wednesday. Shannon, how are you doing?
I'm doing really good. I've had an interesting conversation all day with talking about the inside linebacker position on the discussion thread. So I'm looking forward to talking to you about it and getting your opinion on things.
All right. I have my own little now. I had a great day today. Today is my wedding anniversary. I've been married 20 years today as of right now. Congratulations to me. So we're a little laid back this year. We got some trips upcoming, my wife and I, so we're not doing anything big today. So I'm here with you guys. That's what I'm here for. My other spouse, the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're talking about the other love of my life. Right? You know, it's kind of how it works. You have two. Sometimes, hopefully they both work out for you.
Yeah.
I'm talking a bunch of nonsense. Today, we're going to be talking about the Steelers linebackers, and specifically, do they have enough? Do they have the guys they need? Do they have the players they need to move this defense, forward going into 2023? And we're going to start with the outside linebackers. There's a lot of great talk about the inside linebackers coming, and I want to make sure we don't completely ignore the outside linebackers. So we're going to start with them. And I want to start you off with this question, Shannon. TJ Watt coming back from injury, right? And he was obviously the star in Keith Butler's defense. We've talked before about how Keith Butler was smart to do it, but he ran the defense around generating pressures for TJ Watt, right? Because TJ Watt turned him into sacks. TJ Watt turned him into turnovers. You gave TJ Watt a shot at the quarterback. Good things happen for your defense. Much better compared to even, a Cameron Hayward. It's just better. With that changed last season, where they opened things up a little bit more, ran for Alex Highsmith. We saw Alex Highsmith put up a bunch of sacks last season. Do you think TJ Watt leads the Steelers in sacks this year? And if you think he does, do you think it's close?
Yeah. Excuse me. If he's healthy, and that's a big if, then I think he'll lead them in sacks, just because even though he will attract so much extra attention, double teams, the fact that Highsmith is developed in such a elite pass rusher of his own will limit what teams can do to slow down Watt. When he come back, he was probably 80% of what he normally is. And he realizes, I was intrigued by something he said, that he's changed the way he's working out. And he's giving himself more recovery time. And he's realizing that he's not 23 and 24 anymore. And he might, we understand that we see what happened with JJ. So actually, JJ is a good precursor and a good example for TJ to maybe back off a little bit, let your body heal. I think the Steelers realized how important it was last year because they brought in talent this year to spell him more. If you keep him to 70, 75%, he's going to be more effective, reduces his chance of injury. So I think that he could have a great season because we know how important he is. Say get 15 sacks and, but Highsmith be 2 or 3 behind him. Actually, that is the optimal result because then you can't really cheat to one side or the other if both guys are being about equally effective.
Yeah, I agree with you there. That they are much better together.
Yeah.
One thing I look at though is even week 1 last year, when both of them were healthy, when TJ Watt was having an absolutely incredible game, it was Alex Highsmith getting the sacks. Alex Highsmith actually had more sacks than TJ. And Highsmith had 13 and a half sacks last year?
14 and a half.
14. And when you look at it, he was better when he had TJ.
Oh, definitely.
TJ made him better. Now, this is my thing. If TJ is 90, 95% even, if they're spelling him a bit more and they're letting Alex Highsmith play, Alex Highsmith has played 100% of snaps before. He did it last season. If Alex Highsmith is playing a lot, Marcus Golden is getting in there, rotating in a bunch, and TJ Watt is in there fueling Alex Highsmith's sack numbers with his pressure and teams avoiding quarterbacks trying to avoid TJ Watt running right into Alex Highsmith. I think we could see Alex Highsmith with 15, 16 sacks, and maybe TJ Watt drop down 12, 13. This is just a gut feeling I have. I have a feeling we're going to see one of those phenomenal seasons that don't have a ton of sacks. If you remember some of the seasons Joey Porter had, like I remember a season, where he dropped, I think, down to like 9.5 sacks, and he was incredible.
Yeah.
The whole season, he was just destroying what other teams was doing. Quarterbacks would throw. They didn't know if he was dropping into coverage or not. He had like 9.5 sacks, 4 interceptions, all this stuff. If TJ Watt's pectoral isn't back to where it needs to be for him to just dominate in there, you do more of that with him. Blitz more. Come find some creative angles. Don't just ask him to go in there and take on 2 guys and split defenders and do the crazy stuff he would do. Drop him more. Give him some creative things. Let him still make plays. We'll talk about this a little bit. I'm going to swing back to this, so keep this in your memory. But I think TJ Watt could have that kind of a season this year, and I think Alex Highsmith could have a big one. We brought up the talent behind him, Marcus Golden. I have an interesting stat for you, Shannon. Now, this is from PFF, right? So just take this with a grain of salt and enjoy the numbers coming here. In pass rush win rate from true pass sets, which are not like taking out screen passes, stuff like that, things where the play action, stuff like that, where we know you're passing, you're not even trying to hide it, and the rushers are just coming, right? Pass rush win rate in those situations, Marcus Golden ranked 28th in the NFL according to PFF. TJ Watt was 59th, and Alex Highsmith ranked 100th in the NFL in pass rush win rate. Now, obviously, PFF clearly hates the Steelers. We get that. You have 14.5 sacks, and you're the 100th best pass rusher. That's pretty crazy. But Marcus Golden has those stats. He also was top 10 in quarterback hits, plays where he got to the quarterback, but just too late, right? Just too late. And if you add his sacks plus quarterback hits together, according to PFF's numbers, he has 21 sacks plus quarterback hits. Alex Highsmith led the Steelers last season with 20. Marcus Golden, obviously, we're not going to put too much on. We're not going to sit here and say Marcus Golden is better than TJ Watt or some insane crap like that, like PFF might. Do you think this is a little over-exaggerated, or do you think he's someone who's going to bring actual pass rushing value to this team? Because we've kind of been talking about him like, oh, he's the third guy. He's not going to get sacks. Do you think he could be a guy that brings pass rush value and maybe gets 6 to 8 sacks in the season?
Yeah, I've been thinking, I said on long, if he can get 5 and get those consistent pressures, he's worth every penny. And if you watch him, the once he pressured the quarterback, and a lot of times the quarterback just run away from him because he isn't an elite athlete. He doesn't have a burst at the end to finish the play. He gets there. He disrupts the play. He disrupts the quarterback, which leads to a lot of incompletions and broken plays for the offense. But he doesn't finish plays because he doesn't have that elite athleticism on a level of a Highsmith and a Watt. And so, but I think that what they're going to ask him to do, he is such an upgrade of what they've been running out there as that third edge guy. And he is going to be a real contributor, and he understands the culture, the fit. He's already aware of the Watt family and how they are because he played with JJ, and now he's getting to play with TJ. He wants to be there with Tomlin. I think he's a great fit for this defense because he can also set a really strong edge. Because a lot of times, you're sitting that edge and you're an outside linebacker, you take some abuse because you're getting it from the tackle and the tight end on plays coming at you. And we seen last year on the backside when Watt got his knee hurt in the first game, the Bengals tight end came across the formation and blocked him low. And so you might want to give him a couple more series off, especially early in those run downs, so he don't get abused like that or take that physical abuse.
Oh, I agree. I think it's just smart. I think the NFL is going to be heading this direction. We've seen it in other sports. You don't want to overuse your players.
Mm-mm.
You want to give them little work, little breaks. It's more effective than, even like taking a game off sometime and like playing 100% of the other snaps is not going to do you good. You need to get out and we're seeing more of that. Like I could never do this when I was a kid. I think I've talked about in this show. I played soccer. I was a team captain my senior year. I had multiple concussions. I wouldn't tell anyone. I kept it secret. We didn't have the same, stuff in check to help kids avoid that. I was responsible for telling my coach I had a concussion. I don't know how that, like, I never told anyone. I went in and played my coach was like, "What happened to you? You just suddenly forgot how to play?" Because I was terrible. I was playing with multiple concussions, man. I was awful. And nowadays you see a player like TJ Watt will be in for like 4 or 5 snaps. He'll take himself out.
Mm-hmm.
He'll signal the sideline and run off the field. And I'm like, that's what these guys have to do. They have to understand this. They have to know, when they should get out, when they should come back in, when they should, there's all this crazy science involved in it. It's way over my head. But it's a big part of it. And I think that is a great reason to have a guy like Marcus Golden. It's a great reason to have that rotation on a position where you're doing a lot of contact, a lot of running, a lot of just really high intensity effort. Give them little breaks. I think it's going to be fun. I think this group, this 3, I agree with you. This is the best, clearly, since like 2019 when it was Alex Highsmith as the number 3.
Yep.
All right. Well, do we need to talk about the outside linebackers more?
No, I think we pretty much covered it.
Right. Well, we were doing depth charts, so let's. I mean, obviously, TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith are our starters, right? And we got Marcus Golden as the number 3, who's going to play a lot, and then our number 4, Nick Herbig, right?
Nope.
With I think here is one of my outside, one of my dark horses to make the roster, David Perales. We've heard about him a bit with his intensity and effort, and he's kind of disappeared in the drills in shorts. He's not making plays in shorts. I think that is a guy who could suddenly start looking better the minute the preseason games start and he has somebody to hit. So keep an eye out for some of those depth guys. Someone could make this squad. Someone's got to play special teams. And it's not going to be TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, or Marcus Golden. They are not the special teams players. No. Nick Herbig will be playing it. And you're going to have to find more than just that. It's more than just one player playing as a linebacker playing special teams there. When we move to the inside linebackers, Shannon, you had a great article on him today. So I want to ask you, because we heard the Steelers are bringing Cole Holcomb along slowly. They're not pushing him too much. They're trying to give him time, get him doing well. What are your expectations for Cole Holcomb for this coming season?
Well, I think the Steelers are making the right decision with Holcomb because the foot injury, the surgery is very successful. The odds of coming back at 100%, if you rehabilitate it fully, you don't rush back. Calvin Austin III last year said, "I'm ready to go." He was ready to come back. He thought he was well enough. And the Steelers realized how important his feet is because his speed and his elusiveness is his game. And they're like, they shut him down for the year. And now we're seeing, so far in OTAs, he looks like he's fully back. The speed's there. Patrick Peterson and different people are talking about it. So the Steelers realized that Holcomb, it's been a while since his surgery, but now he's out there even running around in shorts, going full speed for the first time. So he's doing some drills. We'll see him in some stuff, but they're taking it slow. And that's the right thing to do because he's going to be, unless something changes, he's going to be the Mac because he's quicker and faster than the other guys on the depth chart. And so he needs to be fully healthy so he can come out and play. Because with the foot injury, as we've seen with some of the guys that had foot injuries last year, it affects your ability to anchor, to push off. it can be very debilitating. We know it. Jack Lambert retired because of turf toe.
Yeah.
It wasn't because he wasn't tough enough. It just he could no longer push off of that foot. And so it can be any of the foot injury like that can be devastating. You have to let it heal. So I think they're doing the right thing. The benefit of doing what they're doing and bringing him along slowly is it's giving the other guys more reps. And so we're seeing a guy like Mark Robertson get in there and get more reps. You're seeing a guy like Tanner Muse, who's going to be kind of a hybrid. He's getting in there getting some reps, along with the Landon Roberts. So all these guys have got to learn to play together, communicate together. So it's actually the right thing to do, and they're actually benefiting from it in the process.
Well, that's one thing I did want to ask you about too. Is we do have reports, official reports. Mark Robinson confirms he was running some reps with the first team defense, not just because they didn't have anyone else, but he's actually played very well, and he's getting reps with the first team defense because of it. Shannon, before I ask you to respond to this and give your opinions, I want to remind you that this is in fact 2022's Isaac Redman Award winner, Mark Robinson, we're talking about. And with that in mind, I want to ask you, Mark Robinson playing on the first team, right? Is this terrible? Is this bad? Is this a sign of the Steelers apocalypse? Or is this the beacon lighting the stairway to 7?
Well, I'm gonna stop somewhere in the middle, but I would lean to the beacon shining on the stairwell or whatever, because again, Mark Robertson is a much better athlete than people realize. Mm-hmm. He is. If you watch him move, he is very fluid and a natural mover. He's very explosive. Even in these drills at OTAs, everybody's like, you watch him do the drill and watch the other guys. It's quite different. He is very explosive. He's very strong. He did 34 reps on the bench at the combine, or his pro day. I don't remember which one it was. But he has that running back background. But as I talked about in the article today, those two positions, and I played both, they mirror each other.
Yep.
You're looking across the line. A lot of times when you're running a running back, you're looking to see where that middle linebacker is going because he's trying to meet you in the hole. So as a running back, he used his vision to find running lanes. Now as a middle linebacker, he's using that vision to fill the running lane. Okay, not just the vision, but the power and the contact balance he has, he used to utilize to break tackles. Now he utilizes it to, disengage from blocks to bring down the ball carrier. A lot of really great inside linebackers started out or played both positions in high school.
Yep.
He just got a late start, guys. So the year before last, his final year, 1 year at Ole Miss in the SEC, and he was a lost ball in high weeds when it come to coverage. They're pointing at him and holding up signs telling him, you do this and do that. It was almost like water boy.
Mm-hmm.
But you could see the natural talent there. And so last year, same thing. Steelers avoided putting him in any kind of coverage situation because it was painful to watch. But he's had an offseason. He's been working closely with the coaches. He's been, pounding. He's got that work ethic. I mean, he's had to. Look at how many schools he's been in. He's got persistence and determination. That tells me he's got the work ethic. And those guys are going to be successful when you are as athletic and physically talented as he is. So I'm very encouraged. I was encouraged last year. I pushed him for the Redman Award. And I really thought that he had a shot to make the team, contribute on special teams. And it took a little bit. But even the coaches started to have faith in him. Well, now they're running him with the first team. There's no reason to do that. They're running him with the first team because he's earned it. He's had an interception. That's a step up from last year. Because last year he'd have just been wandering around and have no clue where he was supposed to be. So we're seeing progress. And I think that because of these abilities that he has, that not every linebacker has, I don't care what round he's drafted in, I think that he can be a real contributor this year as part of that rotation.
Now I don't want to get crazy here. Okay. I get a little crazy with my Isaac Rudman people. And I get a little crazy with Mark Robinson. I want to let people know I'm not getting super crazy here. Because he's not at all in the same category as the person I'm going to compare him to. But when he is diagnosing run plays, his vision, how fast he starts moving, how he kind of gets low just as he's starting to run.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like you see him just boom, like he sees it and he is going. He gets that low aggressive stance. He reminds me a little bit of Ray Lewis and how he moves on the field.
Mm-hmm.
When he sees a run play and he goes for it.
Mm-hmm.
Just that old school linebacker, that Ray Lewis look to it. You're just like, I want him to get like 8 foot of shoulder pads, go out there looking like the the late 90s, early 2000s linebackers, and just go out there and do it because that's what he looks like to me. I love it.
I wanted the first time I seen him, and it was after they drafted him, and I wrote the grade in the pick, and I started watching some film. The first name that come to my mind, and see, I'm an old timer, and you might not, and a lot of people might not remember this guy, but there was a guy named Sam Mills.
Oh, Sam, yeah.
And Sam was a guy that people was like, he can't make it. He's 5'9". He's 4'7". There was always excuses and reasons why he couldn't make it, but when he got out on the field, he just knocked people out. I mean, he was just, he was a heat-seeking missile, and if you watch, when I see Robinson, I get that same, that he's just got tunnel vision and he just wants to hit. I said in the article, see what you hit, hurt what you see. That's kind of like what he wants to do. And every play, it's consistent.
Yeah.
And he'll have to learn to rein that in a little bit and all, but I'm not saying he's going to be Sam Mills, but what I'm saying is he has similarities and tendencies, and if hopefully he can develop, and it be that the next Steelers linebacker that we'll look back on fondly 10 years from now.
Yeah, I remember the end of Sam Mills' career, towards the end there. But I was a little younger. But yeah, that's a good one. That's a very good one. But he is, Mark Robinson's that old school type of dude.
Yeah.
Now, one of the problems we have with Mark Robinson, one of the problems we have with Landon Roberts, and one of the question marks we have with Cole Holcomb is like really the question mark of this defense heading into 2023. And that is coverage from the linebacker position. And we've heard Keanu Neal getting some work in at linebacker, maybe dime back, maybe nickel, maybe Keanu Neal makes a change like Mark Barron did and starts playing linebacker instead of safety. Who knows? Like you do what you do to stick around. He's a box safety, dime linebacker. There's not a whole lot of difference between those two jobs. So we could see some of that come into play. But do you think the Steelers are in a position where they need to make a trade for someone like, we've heard the name Isaiah Simmons from Arizona? His 5th-year option was declined, and immediately trade rumors erupted. There's actually no signs. Arizona has expanded his role and they're using him in different ways. There's all this news about him. And at the same time, people are like, well, they clearly don't want him, so they're going to trade him to somebody. Is that a thing the Steelers need to be working at? Or is this a team that, do you think the Steelers can kind of go with what they have? Or is coverage linebacker, a specialist in that job, kind of something the Steelers really need to get?
It's kind of hard to say at this point. I think that the preseason will reveal more. I think that there's going to be some philosophical changes on this defense. They have upgraded, I believe, substantially on the defensive line, especially when Benton, as he develops. Mm-hmm. But I do like the depth and the makeup of this defensive line. As people have said, that with the improvement at the, especially if Watt's healthy, on the edge, that's going to make everybody's job behind them easier.
Yeah.
They're going to be more press coverage. And they have more larger, aggressive cornerbacks. And we know the safeties, they're solid. I mean, of course, Fitzpatrick's great. We talked before the show, and you mentioned that what the Steelers expect from their inside linebackers in coverage. And they've asked guys like Vince Williams to do things he was incapable of doing. So after they realized this was a bad fit, then they would work plays to his strength and let him blitz a lot. And but they haven't had that cover guy, honestly, since Shazier. I don't know if it's going to be such an issue this year because I think we're going to see more. If they're playing close games or have a lead, that will help.
Yeah.
They can play more 3 safety sets. And also maybe use Peterson a little bit in the slot or as a safety. As they've talked about maybe doing. They're going to move him around a little bit. A Tanner Muse. The guy is a little bit small for an off-ball linebacker, a little bit big for a strong safety, but he can do both. He can give you minutes there. He had an interception in OTAs the other day. He runs the 4-4-1. At Clemson, that's what he did. He moved all over that formation and made plays. So I think he'll get a chance to be that coverage linebacker. But I'm just not as impressed with Isaiah Simmons as a lot of people.
Yeah, me either.
My problem with him is you said, but we was talking before the show, and you said he's a coverage guy, not a run stuffer.
Mm-hmm.
But it's true. But he's not very enthusiastic in anything. And we've already had a lot of those type of inside linebackers. I don't know what they would ask for him, but I would rather just steer clear of that situation, honestly. If a Quan Alexander, a Deion Jones, guys who do have some experience as a coverage linebacker, you wait. The longer you wait, their price is coming down. And the Steelers might get another guy to add to that mix, pennies on the dollar. But I would not pull a trade for a guy like Simmons at this point.
Oh, I agree. I agree with you. And you brought it up, so I'm going to get into it now. This has been something I've been watching. We've talked about it here. The Steelers, the safety room doesn't fit what they've run in the past. The cornerbacks are different. The linebacker room is different. They are clearly going in a different direction. When all of your personnel fit, this style of defense over here, and you've been running this style of defense over here, you're not staying here when you are aggressively acquiring these guys, right? That's not what you do. So for me, that was the trigger. And then I was listening to Chris Carter, former BTSC staffer and Hall of Famer, talking to Alan Saunders, and Alan Saunders brought up an interview he had with Vince Williams, where Vince Williams was talking about how the Steelers just asked their linebackers to do more in coverage than other teams do. Significantly more. And he said one of the reasons they're having trouble finding good inside linebackers is because the job is just significantly harder here than it is other places. Right? So I started looking up some things. And one of my things I keep thinking about is Brian Flores and the influence he may have had on a Mike Tomlin, on, Terrell Austin. You look at his Miami Dolphins in 2021. Landon Roberts was used pretty heavily in coverage outside of like dime situations. He rotated in nickel, but he was a guy who dropped into coverage a good deal. And when you look at his numbers, right? Targets per snap he was in coverage, yards allowed per target, catch rate, yards after catch per reception, numbers that tell you basically like, how is this guy doing in coverage? What are people doing when they're, when he's in coverage and they're coming and attacking him? Landon Roberts, who is not a coverage linebacker, had very similar numbers to what you see from Isaiah Simmons at Arizona, who was a coverage linebacker, but played nickel, played dime, had more coverage responsibility than a Landon Roberts did. That was one of Brian Flores' top coverage linebackers. He had great numbers.
Yeah.
Not a coverage guy. Right? If the Steelers are heading towards a system where the linebackers don't have to be as good in coverage, which is what a lot of people run. I mean, you go back to New England, there's a lot of years they didn't have good cover linebackers. Their pass defense was still good.
Yeah.
And if you look at the Steelers, the cornerbacks have always done better here. Like guys have been coming here doing better recently than they have other places. You look at Steven Nelson. I think you're going to see Cameron Sutton struggle in Detroit because of this. Joe Hayden coming here struggling in Cleveland and then just has like 3-4 great years here in Pittsburgh as an older cornerback. In my opinion, the Steelers have upgraded their cornerback room, and I think they're going to see a little more of the weight being carried by cornerbacks and a little bit taken off of the linebackers.
Yep.
And so for me, I don't know if we need it. And we're seeing Mark Robinson develop quickly, learn very quickly, great learning curve. I don't think we may not need it. We may just see a team that changes the defense. We don't need that. We need linebackers who are aggressive, go up and hit people. Like you say, see what you hit, hurt what you see.
Yeah. The other day they had it on the NFL Network, and they was doing a replay of a crazy game early last year when the Ravens played the Dolphins. And the Ravens had the lead, but, the Dolphins with all that speed and Tua throwing the ball all over the place, they come back and won. And I got watching the game because I was watching Roberts. Yeah. And since I'm not watching a live game, I really focus just on Roberts. And Roberts a lot of times was trying to cover Andrews.
Yeah.
And that's a mismatch.
Oh, yeah.
And Andrews is 6'5" and whatever, and Landon Roberts is 5'11" and 240. And Roberts is not slow, but he's not fast. He's not great at changing direction. But I tell you what he did do. That guy give 100% effort every time. And you think how many times these last few years you'll see a guy catch the ball just past the line of scrimmage over the middle and nobody in the picture. And then you see a Steeler linebacker come up and they're doing this. And then the guy, because he's faster than him, even though he's a tight end, he races them to the side and gets around the corner on him. And Edmonds or Fitzpatrick had to push him out of bounds all the time. They was absorbing the action. 5 yards downfield, let the guy catch it, and then do this stuff. That is not a Landon Roberts. Every time in that game, there was one time he went over to hit Andrews on the sidelines and whiffed totally and flew out of the bounds and hit some guys on the sidelines. But guess what? He was attacking the ball. And he actually made a couple of deflections later in the game. And he was in there trying. And if you could just make a couple, 2-3 deflections in that game, that could change the whole game around.
Yep.
The Steelers linebackers, the way they've been playing, they're not getting any deflections. They're not making any plays. It's basically let them catch it and then come up and limit the yards after catch. That will not work in the modern NFL. And I know that Vince Williams said they're putting more responsibility on Steeler inside linebackers than other teams. But they also didn't have the guys capable of doing that. Yeah. If you have somebody who's got great closing speed, that might work. Yep. You give up a 3-yard completion and you stop it as a 4-yard catch. The guys they had, Spillane, I love Spillane, all heart. He didn't want to attack a guy. He didn't want to come forward, and that guy has the whole field to go either direction because he knows that guy could drop step him and beat him to the edge easy.
Yep. So he's trying to limit.
Yeah. So all these guys the Steelers have now have better speed and short area quickness and explosiveness than Spillane had. There's an upgrade across the board, whether people want to realize that or not. The Steelers had a Schobert, and Schobert was, somebody said he was a run stuffer. Run stuffer? That dude he's cerebral.
Yeah.
He's cerebral. He is not physical. Even when he was with Cleveland and had his best seasons, he was good at coverage. He picked Ben off a couple of times, but he was not what you call physical. Well, Devin Bush got to where he just didn't care at all. Avery Williamson played with the Jets so long, and he just got used to making tackles 8 yards downfield. John Bostic was a guy who wanted to be a thumper. But the thing is, as you said, in the Steelers' defense, he was required to read and react.
Yep.
That was not his strength. So not only do I like the makeup of these linebackers, I think what they're going to be asked to do philosophically is going to be a much better fit.
All right. We need to take a break. We're gonna go to commercial break here for a second. Stick with us. We will be right back after this. And we're back. Shannon and I were talking about the inside linebackers. We talked about the outside linebackers. I want to bring up one more thing, Shannon, here, and kind of talk about when you look at this roster right now, all of the linebackers, who would you say is the Steelers' best coverage linebacker? Best linebacker when put into coverage?
At this point, I would just say Holcomb. Not that he's outstanding in coverage, but Roberts, like I said, he gives great effort. But so that means a lot. But Robertson is so raw still.
Yeah.
So I would have to say Holcomb.
Now, did you consider the outside linebackers in that decision?
Well, the only problem, we know that Highsmith is good in coverage.
Yeah.
And so is TJ. But now Golden is not.
No, Golden is not.
Golden will set the edge or he'll rush the passer. He will not see him dropping much. So I think Watt is good in coverage, and so is Highsmith. But I don't want to use him that way very much because it's kind of a waste.
It is. I agree. Obviously, TJ Watt. But if we're just talking talent.
Yeah.
If we're just talking talent and coverage, would you agree with me that TJ Watt is better in coverage than any other linebacker we have here?
Easy.
Just with his vision, his playmaking. I mean, we've seen the interceptions.
Yeah.
We've seen him. Some of those balls he's gotten to just for tip-aways are incredible on the flats.
That's easy. It's not close.
And this comes back to us talking about earlier. At the beginning of our show, if TJ Watt and his pectoral muscle are not 100%, right? Then instead of just lining up him on the edge and saying, okay, we got 4 men here. We're going to rush 4 against their 5. We're going to cover, and you guys go get to the quarterback. That's where TJ Watt's going to have struggles if he's not fully, and I don't mean fully recovered like he's not healthy. I mean like fully recovered as in that pectoral is back to strength. There was a lot of time he didn't get to work on that muscle.
Yeah,
that muscle wasn't getting exercised. That muscle was getting rehabbed. There's a difference between rehabbed and back able to play football and TJ Watt, what he was in 2021, right? Before that injury. There's a big gap there. You're talking about like the very peak of athletic performance versus a guy who's just recovered from injury.
Yeah.
So I think there's a possibility that we will see maybe early on TJ Watt drop more, be a little more creative, get away. I know they used to. He did it until 2020, 2017, 2018, and 2019. He was dropping into coverage often over 10% of plays, sometimes as high as 20% in games. He's dropping into coverage and only rushing 80%. Now, last couple seasons, that's been down around like 6%, 7% dropping into coverage. So he could drop 3 times as much into coverage as he has in the past, as he has most recently. And you're just going back to the numbers we saw from like Dick LeBeau. And Dick LeBeau was dropping guys like Lamar Woodley and James Harrison into coverage. Yeah. And obviously, we know James Harrison wasn't the athlete TJ Watt is, but James Harrison wasn't shabby in coverage either. I mean, there's a Super Bowl. There's some Super Bowl coverage, so he's not shabby in coverage. That man knew what he was good.
Yeah.
TJ Watt, I think, could do that. I think we could see Alex Highsmith drop a little more in coverage. As you said, the defensive line is looking better. We guys like DeMarvin Leal, who is a good, big edge rusher. When you're talking about an edge is like a 5 tech, and not exactly, or a 7 even, not, outside linebacker or the rush guys out wide 9, stuff like that, alignments. DeMarvin Leal can do that. If you see a rush where you've got DeMarvin Leal, Larry Ogunjobi, Cameron Hayward, Alex Highsmith up on the line, and TJ Watt steps back, right? Instead of a 3-4 look, you kind of shift it. And you've got kind of a 4-3 look. That works. That works really well. TJ Watt is just dangerous there. And the fact that you don't know if he's coming or not. I think we will see a little more hybrid looks from this defense. And I'm very interested to see if they use TJ Watt as kind of that Weapon X kind of player where they can move him around a bit more. Shannon, do you think there's value in that? Do you think there's value to that? Or would you rather see TJ Watt kind of just stay, hey, this is what he's done. This is what he's good at. keep him there. Don't mess with it.
Well, first off, everybody hit the like button, and that's all I'm going to say. But definitely want everybody to hit the like button. One thing that I think they stopped putting James Harrison in coverage is, if you remember, James Harrison about killed 2 or 3 people.
Yeah,
because they were trying to come across the field, and he would actually almost decapitate them. So they're like, okay, we're getting penalties, he's getting fined, he's going to go broke. Don't put him in coverage anymore. But no, what you're saying, last year, there was times they had 3 inside linebackers on the field at the same time. There was times that they had the 3 safety looks. The Steelers last year, more than I can remember, started to get creative defensively.
Yep.
This year, who's to say that they won't have 3 or 4 outside linebackers on the field? Because we got to remember, Highsmith started his career at Charlotte. He played off ball. Yep. And he moved around the formation to find weak spots, and they found him mismatches because he was their best player. He is very comfortable back in playing off ball. TJ Watt, we know, can do it. We've seen some incredible athletic interceptions and deflections. And so if you've got Golden in there to rush the passer, and let's say Herbig is the other guy who you're just asking the young man who's got talent, just disrupt the play, be a disruptor, attack the quarterback. That, like you said, that is defensive creativity. And that's what I think that the Steelers should continue to focus on. Because one way to keep Watt from being able to be double team, triple team, Highsmith, these guys, he's, like you said, unpredictability. Just, you don't know where he's coming from. And, you can see, I can envision Highsmith or Watt getting a rush up the middle, an open lane. I mean, that would be wonderful, and I can see that happening. And so I'm like you. I think that we're going to see there's answers to where you don't have to bring in a strict coverage linebacker with the 3 wide receiver sets, using some of the guys they have who might be better at coverage than we think, or actually using your options there at outside linebacker to play a little off ball there. And that way the defense can't necessarily trap a guy on the field by going hurry up, which we've seen happen. A lot of times last year, teams were like, okay, Splade's in there, and they went hurry up, and you knew what they were going to do. And it was like, run it back into flat, or tight it in flat, and just make Splade cover him, and he couldn't. So I think that they're going to be more creative this year to keep that from happening.
I love it. I think we're going to see some formation, a little bit more formation flexibility. They brought in some guys who have been on teams that have done it, moved people around. Like they've moved TJ Watt around and had him play off ball technically. But I mean, we're talking about when the defensive line was injured, and part of it was just run defense. They need somebody who could stuff the run, and they put TJ Watt back there as kind of like looked like an inside linebacker. Well, he wasn't playing inside linebacker. He was reading leverage on offensive linemen and just going and blowing something up. Like you just pick a guy and be like, that guy gets blown up, and maybe we stop the run. Maybe we actually stop something. But now with the defensive line better, man, that's a threat. That's something you can see where, and especially you think of the stuff they were running in Miami. Brian Flores was running Miami, where he would get everyone up on the line of scrimmage and some guys would drop. Or they'd have guys close to that and they'd step forward like they were rushing and then drop. Can you imagine if you're like a guard and you've got Cameron Hayward here, and you got like Cameron Hayward is lined up a little to your outside, and looking at that inside gap, right? Looking at your inside shoulder is TJ Watt. And you at the snap have to figure out, okay, am I passing off Cameron Hayward to the tackle and trying to block TJ Watt? And then TJ Watt steps forward and you think and then he drops. Right? That's creating havoc. You just, because he's so fast, he's coming so hard. You know what's coming. You have to be there. You have to be on your game. The threat of a TJ Watt hitting you there, and then like you leave that gap suddenly open when they were trying to close it for TJ. that opens the door for Larry Ogunjobi, Cameron Hayward, other guys on the outside. It just creates havoc. I love it. I think that could be a very, very effective tool for the Steelers defense.
One thing about TJ Watt, and he's very quick, he's very athletic, but these guys they're bringing in have this relentless motor. And what that reminds me of is we've seen in baseball, if you got a guy and he hits that ball on the ground, you'll see guys mess up trying to hurry because they know that he can beat that throw to first base. And it causes errors. It causes mistakes. Well, you also had a guy like Pete Rose, Charlie Hustle. I mean, he wasn't the fastest, but he went 100% every play. And it was the same thing. Guys were more concerned about him, and it caused them to make mistakes. And with Watt just being out there, you know that you cannot take a playoff ever. Because if you do, he will make you look foolish. And he will get your quarterback hurt. So that just his presence alone. Well, now you got Highsmith, who's coming up to be a similar type of player and is just now entering his prime. So that alone is going to change the level of creativity. Brian Flores, I think, would have wanted to help Austin and Tomlin, and they could have been like, we're going to do some zero coverage and stuff. But you can't put Cam Sutton and Levi Wallace or whoever out there like that because, you can give up 7 points real quick. Or 6 points. You know what I'm saying?
They didn't have the personnel.
They didn't have personnel. Now you got Peterson. You got Joey Porter Jr. That's what you brought him in to be the future CB1. I think Trice is much better than people's thinking. I think he would have been a 3rd or 4th round draft pick. And it wouldn't shock me at all if he don't contribute this year, not just on special teams. So they have the personnel. It's kind of like everybody's like, well, do they finally have the personnel for Matt Canada's offense? And I would say yes. Same thing with this defense. They have more things they can do creatively, defensively, because they have more talent.
I love it. I love it. And it's crazy to me to think, and I really do. I really think we're going to see Brian Flores' impact and influence on this defense more this season than we did last season. When they tried to do some of his stuff to try and cover for TJ Watt being out, but they just didn't have the personnel. You didn't have the people to pull it off. They have it.
Yeah.
They should have it. Now, obviously, we're talking, we just mentioned cornerbacks. We mentioned in rookies. We're talking about inside linebackers who there's one inside linebacker on this roster who has played football in a Steelers uniform in an actual game. And that is Mark Roberts.
Yeah.
And that's not a lot of snaps.
No.
Right? And that's it. We're talking about Marcus Golden, who hasn't played as a Steeler before. We brought up Keanu Neal, hasn't played as a Steeler before. We have all these cornerbacks. They've never played. Right? The returning starters from last year, if you go past TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith in the front 5, right? Yeah. The defensive line and the outside linebackers, returning starters from last season. You have Levi Wallace, Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
That is 6, 7 positions. If you go nickel and dime, that's 7 of the positions on the field. Only 2 returning players.
No.
So while we're saying there's all this potential, and I've seen people in the comments have been saying, hey, this could be a top 10 defense. This could be a top 5 defense. Well, they could get there.
In time.
Yes. But like we saw the offensive line last year go from being absolutely terrible to actually being pretty good over the course of the season. I think you're going to see this defense have personnel to do stuff.
Yeah.
But they don't have the time together yet. They don't have the experience of playing together yet. They haven't actually done it yet. And it's going to take some time. I think we saw that with Levi Wallace last year. It took him time to get comfortable and to start playing and stop thinking. We're going to see that with the rookies. I think Patrick Peterson will have a very low learning curve because it's football. The guy's been around long enough. You show him the defense, he's going to figure it out pretty quick. His role. But I think a lot of these guys are going to take some time. Landon Roberts and Cole Holcomb, they've never played together. It's going to take time.
What gives me hope is they've brought in guys who have leadership, who have been team captains. They've brought in guys who have a renowned work ethic. Not just the veterans, but the rookies. they brought in guys who are coachable and have that reputation. There's not any divas per se. And a lot of these guys they brought in, these are just fundamentally committed football guys. And with football minds, instincts, and their IQ, football IQ. And the truth is, the coaches got their hands full. This training camp and this preseason, the coaches got their hands full. The veterans, Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, Highsmith, Fitzpatrick, all these guys are going to have to, they already are doing it. We're seeing it. Mm-hmm. But they are bringing these young guys and these new players, and they're making it. Like somebody was complaining the other day that they went and did some go-karts and stuff the other day, at voluntary OTAs.
Yep.
And so they took them out for some team bonding. They said, well, they should be working. And I think they was half joking, because the truth is that camaraderie that was built, having fun together and doing something away from football. A lot of your best units, say Thursday night, the offensive line, we're having a dinner at somebody's house, or we're meeting at a restaurant and eat together. And that's how you build that brotherhood. So there's a time and a place for everything. And taking that day off the other day to go and have a fun time together and build camaraderie as a team, that will pay off down the road.
Oh, I agree. So I think we're both on the page. Like the early season, we could see some struggles across the board. But this is a team, man. You look at the offense, the defense. This team has talent.
Oh, yeah.
And I think this season, what I'm looking for, and I think what most Steeler fans are looking for, is showing that this is the team that is building to being a competitor, a contender for a playoff run.
Yeah.
For, you don't have to win a Super Bowl this year. You don't have to win a Super Bowl next year. I know we're Steeler fans. The standard is the standard, right?
Yeah.
Super Bowl or bust is kind of what we do. But even if Kenny Pickett isn't the next Steelers quarterback to lead them to glory, right? Mm-hmm. Even if he isn't, if he can be a guy to get them there, like close, can this team get back to being a team that is competing to make it to a Super Bowl? That's what we want to see. And this year, you're starting to see the talent show up. Mm-hmm. You're seeing this team have the people. We have all these guys. One of the cool things is almost none of these guys are on a one-year contract.
No.
Almost all of these guys, we've got them for next season. Whatever we build this season is going to play into the next season too, which is very exciting. I'm excited for this season, and I'm really hoping the offense can score enough points on the front. The pass rush can carry the defense. Basically the pass rush and Mink are going to have to carry the day early in the season. Yeah. And they've done it before, and if we can win some games like that, set ourselves up for playoff position, this team, I think, could make some noise. I think they could win a game or two. This is really that year that I think we can do it. Shannon, are you with me? Are you with some of these people? Are you excited about this defense? You think this has top 10 potential?
Oh, I definitely do. But I'm like you. I say in time. That in time part, it's hard for any of us to be patient. Yeah. It's hard to see the rebuild like we saw last year and not just want to trash it and say, oh, this is terrible and fire Tomlin. And, people want to overreact, knee-jerk reactions. I think last year we seen it with offensive line. When James Daniels started out slow and was trying to adjust and Mason Cole to this new blocking style and scheme of Pat Meyer, everybody was like, oh, Shannon said that James Daniels was the best free agent guard in football. And he looks terrible. And he did. But we see that once 2 or 3 games in, he found his comfort zone, and he was one of the best to give up no sacks last year officially. So it's hard to say be patient, and I don't want to be Aaron Rodgers because he's a jerk, but, spell relax. But sometimes patience is required.
Yeah.
Not just with a young quarterback like Kenny Pickett, but with a roster with so much turnover. But I do agree that we're seeing what Nick Faribault talked about today when he said that when he's in the locker room, he's seen a collection of talent, and he was talking about the offense, but it also applies to the defense, that they can match up with anybody and create mismatches. And we've talked about this before. Weapons are weapons. They don't have to just be wide receivers. They don't have to. The Steelers have a gluttony of talent at tight end and H-back. They have talent, specialized talent, say Calvin Austin III, George Pickens, guys who could do a wide variety of things. They can create mismatches. If Matt Canada, with the help of Thomas, have the capabilities to create those mismatches, I believe Kenny Pickett and company can take advantage of them. So I'm like you. I could see this team making the playoffs and maybe making some noise.
All right. Well, that is our show for today. I want to thank everyone in our live chat, everyone for listening. Make sure you're checking out the other shows here on Steel Curtain Network. Make sure you're clicking over to behindthesteelcurtain.com to read all of our articles, to stick with us and find out all the news you need this Steelers offseason. As always, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for letting us do what we do. Have a great week, and let's go Steelers.